It's time for Type 40 Live, early edition of the live stream Doctor Who magazine show. Here we are again on Rumble, X, YouTube, and Facebook, picking up the pieces of all things Doctor Who from way back then, then to the right here and the right now, all in front of a live chat full of fellow friends, fans, and companions just like you. And when even the showrunner bails, what is there left to say? We're rounding off coverage of season 2 with a look at those final ratings, our closing thoughts, you know, whether they want to hear them or not. Something definitely worth hearing coming up from him later on too. And there's movement already on the CBeebies era. Who's the well-known TV face staking their claim to take over the TARDIS? Type 40 Live's got it all. And oh, come on, mate. If your name's not down, you're not coming in. I think that's... Do you think he's off somewhere in it, or he just doesn't want anybody playing whilst he's away? I don't get out of the way. Yeah, that's better. Yeah, we can see it now. Okay. Yeah. Yes, welcome back, everybody, to the console room. Here we are again. Nice and bright. And those railings, my word. Hello, everybody. I'm Dan Hadley, Birmingham's King of the Geeks. Welcome back to Type 40 Live to start off another week in Geek. We've got a panel ready to bring on as ever, and some unfinished business, I think, to get stuck into concerning the 2025 season of Doctor Who itself. Have you recovered from that yet? I don't know if we have or not, but it was all happening. It was all happening for a little while anyway. The temperature is back down to a comfier level, I'm happy to say, in Britain. We've got the aircon on in the TARDIS, so it makes it a lot less close, I suppose. But it's always a pleasure, nonetheless, to bring on the panel. And my friends here are waiting, and all of a glow, I'm happy to say. I don't know where he's been or what he's been doing. I think it involves stumps, wickets, umpires, you know, that little bloke they all point and shout at him, don't they? Or is that football? Is that football, David Milling?
No, it's cricket. Yes, I'm very well cricketed out. Boom. There you go. Bales as well, and everything like that. How are you, Dan? Lovely. Oh. Sorry I missed you last week, but yeah, lovely to see you.
Well, you mentioned Bales. You know, Russell City Davis has kind of bailed.
Yeah,
after a less than impressive innings.
Absolutely, and I'm hoping that it's going to be Mr. Tumble is going to be the new Doctor.
That's not a euphemism.
That would just be amazing to see Justin Fletcher. With
people overseas have no idea who we're.
Just look it up, people. Just look up Mr. Tumble, CBeebies, and you will see what I mean. He's got a raft of different characters as well, Grandad Tumble and everything. So that would make my day if it was Justin Fletcher.
He's sort of like a spare Chuckle brother, isn't he? I think that's what it is.
Yeah, he's the one that failed the audition. Yeah.
Never a dull moment in the Whoniverse. There's lots to unwrap and to reach back to as well. Things we left hanging from a few weeks ago. So we're going to look back at all of that as well from a position of greater knowledge, I think, with the benefit of hindsight. A couple of weeks now. Is it nearly 3 weeks since the season finished? Seems sometimes, in some ways, it seems longer. In other ways, it seems like it was yesterday.
Absolutely. I've completely sort of forgotten about it. I mean, I've got a friend who keeps sending me balmy rumours that's it's gone way past silly season, and we're into.
We are definitely there already. We are definitely there already. There is some mental stuff, particularly coming off Reddit. I'm sure people think that just because something is on Reddit, that it comes from some sort of clandestine source. There's reams of stuff that, you know, this comes from Disney. You only have to read a couple of paragraphs to realise, no, of course it doesn't come from Disney. And there's a thing that's been published just in the last 24 hours as well, which purports to be like Stephen Moffat's pitch to save Doctor. And you just read the first two sentences, think, oh, come on. There's no way anybody with half a brain would consider this to be real. But the truth of the matter is, in all fairness, as a fandom, as a collective, we have no answers. We probably do deserve, if not literally answers. We're not entitled to know what goes on, what's said in boardrooms. But I think after the way in which Doctor Who departed the screen and the reception to it, perhaps a little word back from the showrunner before he hit pause wouldn't have been too much to ask for. We're going to try and pick up the slack that Russell T Davies hasn't delivered on here on Type 40 Live with the rest of the panel. So who is first? Welcome back, Charlotte Shields.
You know what I think it is with the Reddit stuff? I think the Billie thing has broken the fandom in so many ways. And now because the absolute craziest, stupidest thing has literally happened on screen, now anything's up for grabs. It feels like any rumour, any speculation. Like we all said when that stuff was sort of said about Billie in that list of females, we all went, oh, it won't be her, surely. Like, it won't be that bone idol. And lo and behold, we got it. So it now feels like, I think in the worst way anything is possible with the show right now, in some ways.
What does Doctor Who represent to the general public at the moment? I don't think it's a very pretty picture, I have to say. Its profile seems lower than ever. We can't promise that we'll have all the answers here, but you'll certainly have our honest opinions about not just what's going on with Doctor Who, but where we are with it. You could, of course, stop sitting around complaining about what the BBC are or aren't doing and make your own entertainment, of course, in the way that the chief hooligan very much has. It's our final member of the panel tonight. It has to be Mr. Luke Walters.
Well, hello, everyone. I'll get that out there to everyone. Hello.
Hey, Luke, you look very suntanned. You look very sun-kissed.
It's my lighting. It's my lighting.
Okay,
my room is very tungsten right now. So, yes. How is everyone? It's very cold and wet and damp in Manchester, as normal.
Well, that's normal, aren't we?
Yeah, it's horrible. It's absolutely freezing.
Things must have brightened up for you because there was a big hooligan screening at the weekend. I'm sure I read this somewhere.
It hammered down as well in Liverpool, 30 degrees. I had a pair of shorts on and it absolutely twiddled down. But we got drunk and we had a good time in Liverpool. So that was a very, very fun time to be had.
The Cinescope Massive were
oh God, yeah. Apart from one guy decided to talk over the entire screen, and bless him. So love it when a Lord of the Rings fan turns up to a screen and then decides to talk all over you. It's well done, mate. I don't care if your dog was dead 10 years ago. Like, cool, thanks, man. Cheers.
Very nice. Yeah, you do get these loudmouths, don't you? It doesn't matter where they are; they've got to talk about what they want to talk about, and you do wonder why you get that in the cinema. Never mind that sort of. Proper people on their phones and things like that. It does my head in. You've published a new video as well. I see, Luke, over on the Cinescope channel. This is you. We right up your nose there, mate. What was going on here?
I was going to make a different joke then, Dan, but that's not very appropriate for YouTube.
Oh, no.
But yes, that is so. Yeah, as mentioned, we took I made the time machine and we took Hooligans on tour for the past year. Hooligans towards the tail end of the show, and that's where we had what was it, Lobster, Guinness, and ferries and all that malarkey, and got attacked by R2D2 over an island. So we kind of. And we go on a little bit of a Doctor Who tour as well. So because when I went back to Wales, I stayed in the valleys, top end of the valleys, and that's where some of the more obscure Doctor Who locations are up by my house. And it's where like Amy Pond's house was in Ledworth in the 11th hour, and Sweetville from what was it? The Crimson Aura, Day of the Doctor, Tooth and Claw, Green Death. So those locations are around by me. So it's a film festival. It's a film festival tour with the Doctor Who location tour that's not in Cardiff, because not everything is filmed in Cardiff. Speaking of Reddit, Dan, I've actually read something on Reddit about yourself, but you said don't believe it. It's not true. So, but I would be inclined, because apparently you have the sexiest voice on the internet, and people in the chat seem to agree. So I don't know what you think about this, but I think your voice is very soothing. So
don't say based. Don't say based. Well, whoever said that, it wouldn't be for me to say. I mean, it could be one of my anonymous accounts, you know.
There's so many.
I was going to say, you might have a stalker.
I do think that Reddit has now joined sort of Gallifrey base as the kind of, not the place to avoid as such, but the place to go for a certain brand of conversation and of information as well. I'd say be careful what you read would be my advice for the most part, because it is frustrating at the moment though, isn't it? And as a fan base, as a community, we have been through the ringer. And so, you know, when the guy at the top of the tree is there in Doctor Who magazine putting it and him on pause, Doctor Who, the entire brand being on pause, Luke. It's a strange situation for us all to be in, isn't it?
Yeah, sorry, I muted myself because I was typing, so I don't want people having a go at me because I've learned from last time. So there we go. Learn and grow, everyone. That's all we're saying. But yeah, I think we should. We're not entitled to. We're just the general public. They don't need to come out, and we don't need to know the ins and outs of the backdoor deals. No, that sounds wrong in my head. Does that sound right or wrong in my head? The deals that are happening behind closed doors is what I'm referring to. But yeah, we're not going to know that, and we're not privy to that. Some stuff has leaked out. There's some streamers are very keen for it, but they don't want Russell, and the BBC and Bad Wolf seem quite keen on keeping Russell. But I think, yeah, let's just no news is good news. I firmly believe and kind of understand that Doctor Who is coming back, and I think one of the boys from Hooligans is currently watching Type 40 and just texts me backdoor deals. So yeah, there we go. Yes, brilliant. Thanks, Rob. That's Rob from Hooligans. Say hello to Rob from Hooligans.
Take it from me, Lucas, someone who's dropped a serious amount of clangers over the last 5 or 6 years. Just style it out. Nobody will notice. Yeah, so Russell said this in the latest Doctor Who magazine. He said a number of things. I mean, he said quite a lot. There was like 3 or 4 columns of it, but there wasn't really much in there apart from this, where he said, we don't know what's happening yet. And while everyone works that out, I'll take a pause on this page. And that word pause is very much the word that's left hanging in the air around the entire brand. And so Doctor Who fans, being the kind of the breed that we are, we've sort of read that in to mean all manner of things. But are you aware of the Doctor Who magazine? Have you been keeping tabs on that? And what's your take, Luke?
Yeah, I think I read it via someone took a photo of the article and posted it in the group. Mainly because I went to W.H. Smith and they didn't have any, so I was like, well, I'm not going to read this. So, but yeah, it's kind of very much. I know he's stepping away. He's got nothing to add to Doctor Who magazine anymore. Realistically, now production's gone, so he's got nothing to really contribute essentially. So, I mean. Yeah, it's kind of reading between the lines. I don't know. It seems a bit up in the air. But
I wonder, Luke, how much work can this bloke have on? You know, I know he's got this Channel 4 drama coming up, but he wrote that last October. So that's all done.
I think he posted today. He was writing episode 5, or just finished episode 5. I think he posted today, the 23rd of June. So I think still working on it. So he's back up in Manchester. He's working on that now. So normally, I know on. Was it Nolly he did with Helena Bonham Carter? I think he did that.
That's just beforehand.
Yeah, I think. Well, I think he did it around the same time as the specials because they were double banking because they were shooting on top of my old office in Foot Asylum. And I know he was barely involved in that. apart from, so I used to work. Yeah, it's as a lead video, not in a shop.
People in the fandom are talking about Doctor Who magazine again. Which is going to be a good thing for everybody there, for Panini, for Jason, and everybody else who works on the magazine. But whether they're actually buying it or not is another question, I suppose, isn't it? Because it is just that one page that everyone's talking about, that one column, and pretty much that one quote.
I mean, fair play to the graphic designer though for making that, because I think I saw them post that they only had like one still image from the episode to work on. And that's all they were given, and they've made this cover out of it. So
the same one the rest of us have been making do with for the last 3 or 4 weeks.
Fair play to get a public, but fair play, absolutely fair play. But yeah, I don't know. Doctor Magazine's, well, it's like a tenner now, isn't it? Unless it comes with a Target novel, I'm probably not going to buy it to be honest. So
near enough. There's not a great deal that they can say that they're in the position to come out with at the moment. You know, it says Billie Piper is the Doctor there and a question mark. and to step back on the TARDIS was something I couldn't refuse. We don't get anything in there that we didn't already know. I know that Billie Piper is scheduled to make an appearance at Wales Comic Con. This is so it's not for about another 6 or 7 weeks. This is on the weekend of the 9th and the 10th of August there. Special guest Billie Piper. This was confirmed some time ago. And I do wonder, will she be on a panel there? Will she be at liberty to talk? Because people are going to want to ask her about Doctor Who while she's there, aren't they, David?
Yeah, and imagine that she'll just basically have to hold up a big sign saying, "I know nothing."
Don't ask me questions.
Don't ask me questions, because there will be a queue around the building to say, "Are you the Doctor? Billie, hi, what's going on? La 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 la," and she'll be having to sort of have lots and lots of questions put her way about something that she probably actually knows bugger all about.
I suspect you're right.
I hope that she can slide effortlessly into just talking about the Christopher Eccleston audio adventures that she's recorded.
Give the Tom Cruise answer. Sort of pass off the question that you don't want to answer, and simply answer one that you do and that you can. Comic Con Wales are leaning right into this, quoting that moment at the end of the episode. Oh, hello. And if you want to ask Billie about all things Doctor Who, make sure to get your tickets. So they are sort of selling tickets on the principle that she will speak, Charlotte. But I find it very hard to believe that she can.
Well, Stephen's just put in the chat, literally has just put, can I find it? It's moving, that they've said she won't answer questions about her appearance. Yeah, Dan, they've already said, this is what Stephen's just put. So, Stephen, if you can add more, that'd be brilliant. They've already said that she won't be answering questions on her appearance. And I think that's probably the smartest move. Because I'm with David, she probably is very much in the dark still. By all the reports, it was a very rushed sort of, they filmed it in her house thing. It was a very sort of tiny crew that did it. So it wasn't like it was this big planned thing. No. And like Russell's doing something else now and the show's on a break. So she can only just sort of say the same quote of, that thing of, I wanted to come back, of course I wanted to come back sort of thing, and talk about how much she loves the show. So,
but the truth of the matter is that they probably initially booked her several months ago.
Yeah,
maybe due partly to the fact that she's Billie Piper, and the other side to it obviously is that it's 20 years of New Who, which we talked about a couple of weeks ago, Charlotte. So I can see the legitimacy behind her being there, but no, I haven't read that yet. I certainly haven't seen any further details from Comic Con Wales, but it wouldn't surprise me.
Well, yeah, like I said, I think just to protect her, which I'm fully for, because she doesn't want fans mithering her. Like, who wouldn't want that, really? And like I said, she's got so much other stuff she can talk about, like the original run with Rose, like her other projects, like the fact that she's doing producing work now. She's even going more behind the scenes, which I think is brilliant for her. So it's like there's so many topics, and I think they won't want every single question to focus on 2 minutes of an episode, which she doesn't really understand what's coming next.
It's an interesting development if their line on this has changed, if they've made some sort of statement, because I haven't seen that, in all fairness. My thinking was that if she was, for example, under contract as the incumbent Doctor Luke, in the way that Ncuti Gatwa was between 2022 and actually making the show, actually under contract, she wouldn't have been able to speak, and therefore, would it be wise? Would it be fair for them to honour her convention appearances if she can't talk about the elephant in the room?
Well, I think she just did a convention, didn't she, over the weekend with Tennant?
Yeah, I saw
and
that.
They kind of touched on it, like literally at the last moment. Okay. They were like, "Oh, so can we talk about the 16th Doctor? Is there a Doctor on the stair? Blah blah blah." And she just went, and he went, "No, cool." And then it just ended, and that was literally, I think I saw the clip, and it was the briefest of moments where they spoke about it, and that was
so she could be, if not under contract, under an NDA.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah, seems
I
that
still
way.
don't
I mean,
think
and she's
she's
also
the next Doctor. I'm going to keep to that. I still don't think
Well,
she's
it doesn't.
16.
It's the principle is the same though. Whether it doesn't really matter who she's playing. She is the lead of this show. She's
Yes.
if when they make more, the only thing we know for certain is that she'll be in it. And so
She'll be
if
something
she doesn't,
in it, yeah.
yeah. So if she doesn't know, no one does. So if they're going to slap an NDA on somebody, it's going to be this chick here.
Yeah, totally. Because just in case she accidentally somebody asks her a question, catches her off guard, so at least she knows what not to say.
Also, David, if she can't say anything, then potentially, in all fairness to the woman, she's a professional. She's got a career to think about. Her marketability and reliability.
Yeah.
They might not want to say, "Well, you can say this, but you can't say." It's easy to just say, "Don't say a fucking thing."
Yeah, just do not speak.
Yeah, don't speak.
Just smile and nod, and give the thumbs up, and talk about
smile and wave, boys. Smile and wave,
and talk about what it was like working married to Chris Evans and getting cast as the Doctor.
That's someone smiling. That's someone smiling after 2 seasons of him sobbing away, crying his little heart out there. He's inspired fans, though. We've been sent this fabulous piece of fan art by the Thin King in tribute to the late departed 15th Doctor, and in honour of where things could be going next. Yeah, no sooner had we got our heads around the fact that for the time being, that was that, and the 15th Doctor's era was over. We got word that the future could be
Mr. Tumble
for the under fives. The speculation has begun already. I can't quite believe this about where this could go and with who. Last week we bounced this around a little bit on the show, not long after the story had broken, and I think we were all pretty resigned to the fact that we wouldn't know anything really about who would be involved and how, and you can probably discount her and even him. Something I didn't see coming, though, was the potential involvement of actress and long-time Loose Women panelist Denise Welsh. So the 67-year-old actress has openly asked outright the BBC for this job to voice the next incarnation, potentially, of the Doctor. And it's as a direct reaction to these plans to launch that brand new animated Doctor Who series for the preschool audience to come between 2027 and 2029, wasn't it, Luke? There was like 50-odd episodes or something like that. So she seems to be down for it.
Cool. Fantastic. Nice.
Might as well go the whole hog and cast Janet Street Porter.
Yeah.
God. Oh, God.
That'd be funny, at least.
I mean, in all fairness, I like Denise Welsh. Got a lot of time. She's put in some great performances in serial dramas and ongoing dramas over the years. She's lots of fun. She's quite outspoken. And whilst I wouldn't describe her as a national treasure, she's sort of like, imagine if Judi Dench had a younger sister who worked in the Chippy. That's Denise Welsh. You can't not like characters like this. But hers is just one name being linked with it this week. And surprise, surprise, this shortlist does come from Reddit. You're quite right. Justin Fletcher, best known as Mr. Tumble, he's there. So is a bloke called Andy Day. Yeah, he is there on the shortlist for potential CBeebies Doctors. I had no idea who Andy Day is. George Webster is also there. Apparently, he's another CBeebies personality. But just for good measure, Luke, they've thickened the list out with acting heavyweights. James Bolam, I think he's just had a big birthday, James Bolam. Richard E. Grant, and then Denise Welsh. She was thrilled to find herself in such illustrious company as Justin Fletcher, as you can imagine, and immediately sent this list, Instagrammed it, whatever you want to call it, tagged Russell T Davies. And even though he's nothing to do with this, I definitely think this job should be mine. So she's got her teeth into it, it seems.
I want Joe Pasquale.
Joe Pasquale?
I want Joe Pasquale. If you see a post on Reddit in the next 3 days confirming
where it's come from.
If you read on Reddit, it's true. So Joe Pasquale for the CBeebies Doctor. Like,
Yes.
the T-shirts are being printed as we speak. Imagine that voice. It'd be like,
I don't
His
think I want
son,
to.
I
Joe,
mean, fantastic.
Joe
Fantastic.
Ticini, his son, would be good too.
Yeah. And Joe Pasquale's been in Doctors. That's quite close to
Yeah.
Doctor Who. This is a bit
It's close enough.
yeah, it's close enough. So Joe Pasquale for the CBeebies Doctor, or Basil Brush, one of the two. I'm happy with either.
Obviously, we don't know who's going to be in it. We've got no idea what it's even going to be called. It's probably not going to be called Junior Doctor Who, but for the time being, it just amuses me to think that it could be Junior Doctor Who. Denise Welsh and Russell T Davies have never actually worked together. I think they were both on Corrie sort of a few years before and after one another, something like that. But they are both patrons of the Hope Mill Theatre in Manchester, so they are sort of loosely connected. So I don't think she's sort of just bothering him totally and utterly cold. But yeah, it does seem that the story of the CBeebies incarnation era of Doctor Who that could be on the way, that's providing any of these pitches is sort of picked up. David, you know, we should stress this. All they've done at the moment is invited production companies to pitch for this. None of them may be workable because it's happened before. They've tried this before.
Do you know, I was watching the stream last week because I was taking my son out as it was the end of his GCSEs. So I watched it later, and I was just trying to figure out how on earth would they? I mean, my two kids grew up on CBeebies through In the Night Garden and all the, Auntie Mabel and Come Outside and Numberjacks, all this sort of wonderful stuff. And what Charlotte said was a very, very sort of good point in the fact that it has to be long enough to actually build a little story, but short enough to keep the kids engaged and to actually give them some sort of value. And I was trying to figure out, and I still haven't figured it out, what a production company could do with this with a franchise such as Doctor Who, or a character such as Doctor Who, to make it for small tots without it being absolutely horrendously scary for them and traumatizing for them. But if they made it educational or science-based, I think that would have to be the way forward.
I think, honestly, they really just sort of focus in on the monster of the week, sort of, as the term in telly is known as monster of the week.
Yeah.
Like your Power Rangers, like those sort of shows where you have your issue, your problem, whether that's a creature or monster or a planet, and that's sort of the thing that keeps the plot going, but it's not that heavy.
Yeah.
And then,
sort of a bit like the Numberjacks, sort of, where they had their sort of blobby things and their
something, because I think even for a small child, you need some sort of problem, some sort of challenge in there, and I think Doctor Who lends itself to that with having creatures and planets you can visit and people historically you can visit. So I think they'd have to focus in on that, and then have a very loose sort of little bits of character, maybe at a push, because it's 50 episodes, you could do little bits each episode maybe, but it'd be very sort of base level. So that's what I think
I'm convinced they'll be in and out in 3 or 4 minutes, no connective tissue at all, really. I mean, I think it's lovely that Denise Welsh has responded. I mean, actress wants a job. There's no big news there, is there, Luke? I think that we'll probably forget about this really quite quickly. Whether she will or not, I'm not entirely sure. Other people, though, saw this and have picked up the challenge, including children's TV legend Dave Benson Phillips. Do you remember him from the 80s and the 90s? Everybody loved this bloke. Bit of a nutter. And he was over on X, just putting it out there and dropping not the most subtle of clues, but then again, he was never the most subtle of blokes, was he?
No, but I did read on Reddit that there is a showrunner potentially attached. His name is Tussle D. Ravis. I don't know if it's any relation to Russell, but never know. But I did read it on Reddit, so take that as what you may.
Who is going to join the Pantheon there? Could the next Doctor over on CBeebies restore some prestige? to this lineage. Let us know what you think. Of course, whether you're under 5 or not. Odds are you're not. But if you've raised under 5s. If you've raised under 5s or you have your own under 5s, let us know your instincts about where the show could go. Who could they cast? I'm convinced that they'll go for somebody with a track record for being a great voice artist, and that will largely be that. Thank you, everybody who's joined us so far. I've got comments over there in the live chat on YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, and X. Let's see what they've got to say about all of that. Are there any Denise Welsh fans over there?
Watch Time 40, or I will be paying you a little visit.
Looks like my wife.
Commentary and insight that you only get from the live chat here. Live on YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, and X. Funky says, #Sooty.
Hello, Duncan.
Is Sooty still a thing? I do love Sooty. Sweet for the Doctor. Sweet.
Oh, yeah.
Gary's here. Dr. Scrunch and the Genesis of Cringe. He says, Dr. Scrunch and the Genesis. It could catch on. Yeah. We've got Problem being in the live chat as well. Or should I say we did, the composer of the best theme tune in the whole of Doctor Who podcasting there. Thank you again, Lee, for your company. What was Dave Benson Phillips in? Asks Mr. Matt. Over to you, David.
Everything. He did game shows and everything. I was actually thinking Bodger and Badger would make a good Doctor and companion, but sadly, the Mr. Bodger died, I believe, so we can't have that.
Is Mr. Bodger? There's seriously a character called Mr. Bodger.
Yeah, he was Mr. Bodger. Yeah, if you don't believe me, look it up on Reddit. You know.
Yeah, to be fair, I did read that on Reddit.
It sounds like somebody. It sounds like somebody who does a lot on the dogging circuit. Side quest nerd said, please just reset Doctor Who to a sci-fi show with a male hero that has limited lives fighting scary monsters and races. Kids, Doctor Who, just no. I think give them a chance. I think this is, in all fairness, in my view, side quest nerd, I think it's fairly harmless, but I see why some fans could react quite badly to this. And I don't disagree with your general principle. Doctor Who, broadly, does need to go back right there. You're quite right. But Funky brings up Button Moon. You know, Mr. Spoon, he had a touch of the Doctor about him. Didn't he wear a waistcoat, at least?
We could have him fighting Bill and Ben. They speak like gibberish, don't they? Just imagine that.
Yeah. Stephen Braddock reminds us that Doctor Who was originally educational, so science and numbers and alphabets with a linking monster, or at least a linking the sense of jeopardy, I think, rather than, I won't even use the word threat. Just needs to be jeopardy or something bizarre happening. I think that would work. I think that could work.
And maybe we could find like the Master's long lost cousin, and like he could be the villain that keeps popping up every episode.
Janet Street Porter.
Big T's in the live chat. I've got to get back to you, Tony. I know you've messaged me, mate. I do apologise for not replying yet. I'll get right onto it after the show. Jess is in. Jess is laughing and rolling her eyes at something. As long as you're enjoying yourself, Jess, I don't mind.
Bodger and Badger. They loved mashed potato as well.
Jelly babies. Call it time tots. People have got names for the new CBeebies show. I've got a name. I was speaking to somebody else the other day about this, and I've got a name for what I'd call it. Dr. Dredd says, Denise Welsh, what's this fascination with Wales? It's Welsh spelled with a CH, not an SH. Did they include Tom Cruise on that list? And Lenny Henry asks Garbage. Which list is that? The one for potential CBeebies doctors? I don't know. Maybe. I can't criticise Denise being the Doctor. I don't know how she'd play it. Well, brassy, I think. She's only really got two settings, Denise, hasn't she? Brassy or depressed. Not much in between. But there we are. And Problem Being says, can Doctor Who get any more embarrassing? Well, we'll do our best. We'll see where we go on the rest of the show. We like to hold our end up of that bargain, as I know that you know. Why not let a loose woman have a go? I think they already did. Dr. 13. She's from what I hear. I've seen the tramp stamp. Who is she? I've never heard of her. Says Dr. Dread. I know it's gone downhill already, hasn't it, Luke?
Funnily enough, my mate was on Loose Women a couple of years ago. You can go and search it, but he painted a portrait of Janice Street Porter nude. Don't know
my
why.
God! Did he get danger money?
I don't know. Yeah,
No,
but
hang on. You mean he was in the nude or she was in the nude?
No, she
He
was.
painted her
Yeah. He painted a nude portrait of Janet Street Porter, and they had it on. They had it on Loose Women, and I think they might have auctioned it off, and then it ended up somewhere. Yeah, but you can search it online. It's a very searchable. Well, it's not. Don't search Janet Street Porter nude, Jesus, but just Google. Yeah, but it's on YouTube. You can find it, and yeah, this is the most bizarre thing ever. How this all timelines are all over the place. But yeah, that's my connection to Loose Women. Very tempting.
Maybe that's why half the episodes are getting cut now.
Yeah.
That's the kind of experience that could give anyone sort of PTSD. I think he could probably put in a claim there with that. Jess, a fan of Bodger and Badger, or at least was. Written by Andy Cunningham, first broadcast in 1989. Wow. TV Brain, Jess. We're going to start calling you TV Brain. There you go. Good stuff.
One character, sorry, can I just say that it just sort of came across my flash across my mind whilst you were talking about painting Janet Street Porter nude, and that was not you, but your mate, but that was Chris Barry. Chris Barry who played Rimmer. He would be brilliant.
Yeah. He can do. He's so versatile because odds are, whoever they pick for something like that, the entire voice cast of a show like that will probably only be made up of 3 or 4 actors. So it will be somebody who doesn't just voice the Doctor. It's a brilliant idea, David.
That's why it can't be like a celeb casting.
No.
I'm with you. It has to be a proper VO, like a voice actor for me, for it to work.
Joe Pasquale.
The campaign starts here. Joe Pasquale, Chris Barry. Yeah. We're going to get in there. Get yourself down, Ladbrokes. Put some money on those 2 boys and see if we can bring them in. Yeah, you never know, do you? Yes, so thank you, everybody, for all the comments there. We're glad you've stimulated your imagination. We've got Philip Roy in the live chat. A real doctor who should know better. Philip, I'm not even sure I can ask that. I'm going to it. Philip Roy asks, were Janet's breasts obscured by her own teeth?
I can't remember. I will find it and I'll put it in the chat. But it is a thing, and I will find it. My targeted ads now are going to be so strange because of this. Cheers, Phil.
Dr. Dread. Dr. Dread has offered his name for the CBeebies show, Doctor Who and the Mystery of the Disappearing Interest. Keep them coming, everybody. See if you can top Dr. Dread's there. Get in with your suggestions. What should they call the CBeebies Doctor Who show? Who should they cast? I think Chris Barry is a really great answer. I'd go for Joe Pasquale at a push, but I'm very taken with the idea of Chris Barry. Let us know what you think, as always.
Watch Type 40, or I will be paying you a little visit.
Okay, so it's nice to see the calendar filling up with more and more Doctor Who events over the months and years. Whole weekends, one-dayers, even just afternooners are all right by me, I think, depending on the thing that you're sort of showcasing, the people that you've got, and the kind of atmosphere that you want to sort of stimulate there with your event. This one was put on by Sci-Fi South over the weekend. Doctor Who Day at the Concord Club. The Concord Club is not managed by Peter Kay, but it sounds like it probably should be. So I saw the poster for this, thought it looked great. Michael Troughton, Wendy Padbury and Fraser Hines were there, as was Peter Davison and a Screen News Dalek. A lot of the usual stuff, panels, autographs, selfies, listed selfies now, dealers, not that kind of dealer, merchandise, Luke, quiz and prizes, all that kind of stuff. And that was on Saturday, the 21st of June, just gone between 10 and 5 p.m. So, yeah, the sad news is that you've missed it, but there was a real exclusive there at that convention, which I really wanted to talk about, and I wondered if you'd seen this. So it turns out that at this event, a rare Doctor Who recording was played to the attendees in Eastleigh over the weekend. put on by Richard Latto, who's the organizer of this. And it just sounds so fascinating, so romantic, I suppose, because it's a next to unheard radio interview with Patrick Troughton. Obviously, Patrick Troughton, for years, he was sort of tagged as the forgotten doctor for a long, long time. I think that has sort of demystified a little, but he's still quite an enigmatic character. And of course, he passed away nearly 40 years ago now. So we've got photographs. We do have interviews, but they're quite few and far between. And because he was a character actor, he didn't really like to put much of his real life or personality out there. You know, the Doctor was a sort of a corner. His Doctor was a corner to his personality, I think. So much of him is sort of shrouded in mystery, and he didn't talk about Doctor Who that often. Whenever he did on BBC Breakfast and things like that, he was sort of larking around with friends. So it was always hard to work out whether he was being serious or not. Luke, have you seen those little clips of Troughton when he's being himself on those sort of shows?
It's not as much as I would like. And as soon as you told me about this the other day, or yesterday, or this morning, it's been a long weekend. I was trying to get you to send me it over, and no, I'm very.
I've run out of time.
Yeah. I thought you would be like, no, you'll watch it on the show. I was like, oh, okay, I'll hang fire. But no, I'm very, very interested, very, very interested as well. I've seen a couple of interviews with him, and when he's talking about the show and stuff, always very curious. And yeah, this is very, very, very exciting. And I'm sorry, I just seen in the chat, loads of people have seen the Janet Street Porter thing. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Stop distracting them with Janet Street Porter's breasts and teeth.
I'm so sorry. I'm very, very excited for this. Very, very excited for this.
Yeah, so Richard was over on social media plugging this. He said we'll be revealing the full interview and rushes from one of the last interviews Patrick Troughton ever did, a poignant recording made on his birthday, just 3 days before his sudden, untimely death. He died at a Doctor Who convention in America, and as you can imagine, it made headline news back here in Britain. It was quite shocking because, again, he was only 67, which, it's just no age. Obviously, he'd suffered several years with a heart problem. That's pretty well documented. But yeah, this was very, very shocking. And so when you hear interviews or see pictures of him from around that time, it's even more fascinating. He carried on doing bits of TV work, such as Inspector Morse. He was in one of those. So looking a bit older, I'm always fascinated by seeing Patrick Troughton as Patrick Troughton. And thanks to Richard and everybody who put that event together there at the Concorde, we get to hear this piece of audio there from Patrick Troughton. They've shared a snippet, and yeah, you're going to hear it right now, Luke. So listen up. Where are we? It is here. There he is. It's the great man himself. Yeah, all the way from back in 1987. Sadly, just 3 days before he passed away.
And I've got Patrick on the line with us now. Patrick, first of all, a very happy birthday to you.
Oh, happy birthday to me. Thank you. Just enjoying my morning cup of tea.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Do you mind people still going on about the Doctor Who connection?
Yes, they do, really. There was sort of a bit of a stir when Colin left, and they wondered for a long time who they were going to have as the new one. And John Pertwee and my name were bandied about a bit. I don't think they really thought seriously about it, to be quite honest with it. Yes, I get lots of letters still from all over the world, really, which is very nice.
And what about them bringing the Doctor back? I mean, do you not think he might have run his course?
Oh, no, he never ran his course. No. He's got to come back all the time. I think he's, after all, the Archers, and all the rest of it, Coronation Street, it's got to go on. It's the longest running science fiction serial, and it's a world beater,
Yeah.
And, it's got to go on, of course it has. And this new chap's going to be marvellous.
The late, great Patrick Troughton there, speaking in 1987, courtesy of Richard Latto and the event, their Doctor Who Day there at Eastleigh. It's fascinating to hear him mention Sylvester McCoy, I think.
And what about...
Because it's not something that we heard him talk about, because it was obviously Sylvester had literally just been cast.
I think
Chris Thompson going through my head that entire time. Then I was like, Chris has ruined the second Doctor for me. But that was incredible, though. And then you got David. Sorry, I interrupted you.
Yeah, what I loved particularly about that was the old telephone line interference. That it's special to me from my sort of childhood of listening to cricket through the night via broadcasts on the awful radio sort of reception that I used to get, and it's just lovely to hear a proper sort of telephone interview from the radio from the time, because you can't, it's a very
analog,
very analog, but very instant reactions and true reactions of Patrick Troughton just saying, well, I still get lots of letters and it's all sort of lovely, and talking about absolutely seriously about how the program will go on and on and on. And it is true. The Archers have been going for decades, and they're still being transmitted every night.
Now you mention it, that does line up with a lot of the things that Russell T Davies has been saying. Patrick Troughton had been sort of estranged from the show for a little while, but they kept bringing him back. It was only, say, 18 months, 2 years earlier that he'd appeared as the second Doctor again opposite Colin Baker. So when he died, I'd seen him in the 3 Doctors, the 5 Doctors, and the 2 Doctors, and just a couple of episodes from his tenure. And so I did feel like a real sense of loss about his passing. Somehow he was still current. And I do know that there were lots of calls around that time, but just before Sylvester was cast, to bring back. They'd spoken to Sidney Newman, for example, and a lot of people exaggerate Sidney Newman's sort of part in that as if he was some sort of consultant. He wasn't. But Newman was all for just bringing back Patrick Troughton. In fact, I think if William Hartnell had still been alive, he'd have probably have petitioned to bring him back, to go right back to basics. But it's a fun idea, and you can see Patrick Troughton didn't sound appalled by the idea.
No.
Sure, it's just so lovely to hear his voice.
And the thing is with Pat, he's, whenever you see him, whatever age he's on screen, he has this sort of boundless impishness and childishness, and he sort of reminds me of like the Mad Hatter a little bit, like his energy in sort of the Alice tales, because it's this idea of him sort of having this very properness about him in some bits, and you've heard that in the interview when he said, "Oh, chap," and certain words, which to me I love because it does make me think of that time period when people spoke like that in Britain. But then for all that like properness, he would have he'd have the recorder, he'd have the sort of the comedy aspects he'd bring, he'd have the sort of talking around in circles at people. So that's what I mean. He was this lovely contradiction in every way, I think, the second Doctor. And that's why I think you could have brought him back at that point, and he still would have had the appeal he would have had back in his first run, because the actor still had that energy which he brought of this sort of uncertainness, like I said, a bit of crazy, but a bit of wisdom and a lot of love as well. He was a very sort of, whereas Bill was sort of at times harsh and it took a while, but you got there, but you had to get there for the sort of the compassion side to come out. I feel like the second Doctor had it very much from the beginning. And that's what I just think he was this lovely, like I said, contradiction. That's what I adore about the second Doctor, and probably why, out of all the classic ones, he's my favourite, and he still is to this day.
I've got another quote here from Richard Latto. He said, "This is a very significant recording in the history of Doctor Who because Patrick Troughton didn't do many interviews, and it was potentially the last interview he ever did." So it was recorded by a local radio station in the north of England. Hasn't been seen, or it hasn't been heard, sorry, aside from that single transmission in that localized area on that day when it was transmitted in 1987. They've got the full interview and the rushes from the interview as well that it was taken from. So who knows? We may all get to hear it in time. Troughton's castmates, Wendy Padbury and Fraser Hines, they were both present when the recording was being played. So that was probably quite emotional for them.
Close to him.
Yeah,
And the way they
it's
speak.
lovely.
Fraser especially, they were like brothers. You could tell that on set.
Yeah.
Those two.
Let's see what people have got to say in the live chat about this. Stephen O'Neill names Tomb of the Cybermen as Troughton's best story. Obviously, we could keep going for forever and a day, couldn't we? There, we've got. I saw my leg off to get another Second Doctor story back. A complete story, that is. My leg is worth something, as Mr. Matt. Here we go.
Good for you, Mr. Matt.
Tom's been watching the Macro Terror. And Stephen says it's a shame Patrick Troughton's stories are incomplete. Just hearing Patrick Troughton's voice has put a smile on Funky's face. It did mine as well. And David Mullen says, it's lovely hearing his voice like this. Wonderful. There are still little gems like this hidden in archives waiting to be found. Maybe they will find some more. And Mr. Matt says, yes, it was nice for him to talk of the new Doctor. Because you do wonder, was he aware? Because for all we know, he could have been working, might not have been aware that somebody had been cast or knew the actor's name or had seen him. To hear him reference Sylvester McCoy there, that's something I'd always wondered about in these sort of 38 years, 38 years? 38 years since Patrick Troughton passed away. It's, a long time. Just really lovely stuff. And I think, Richard, they didn't have to share even that snippet, did they? The fact that they did, I just think it's a wonderful, wonderful thing for them to do. And yeah, everybody's a Patrick Troughton fan. I don't think I've ever met anybody who doesn't like his Doctor, to be honest. Luke seems that rare thing.
Very true. Very, very true.
I mean,
real audio gold, says Rob Alexander.
If I may, Dan, this is a marvelous discovery, because a very good friend of mine, my best friend, has been a producer at Radio 2 for the last 25 years. And it was another test match the other week that we were talking about the state of the BBC's radio archive. And he said everything is from around about 2008 is there. But before 2008, the archive is in a right mess. So for that to have been, and it was very much on an ad hoc basis that people interviews would be kept to something. Anything like that we've got from 1987, that is a massive big thing for to still be in the archive. And we are exceptionally lucky that somebody in the control booth pressed play and record and decided to keep it.
And
because
it's clear
otherwise
as well.
It's wonderfully clear. That's taken straight off there.
No mistaking his voice is the Charlotte.
Straight from the feed, from the studio.
And I think that's sort of, with these Doctors that have now gone, I think that's what we want, to still be able to hear the voice, because that's what that's sort of them still being here in a way. It's weird. Even just now, when you were playing that, it made me have a bit of like a goosebump moment.
Yeah.
Just to hear him, because it's so distinctive. I think Pat's voice is very distinctive. And that's one of the other reasons why his Doctor was brilliant. So it's sort of like...
It's not literally the Doctor's voice. Some of the actors, not all of them, some of them do just sound like Doctor Who, even as themselves, but he doesn't. It sounds like a corner to him. David Mullen asks if we know, is that a BBC radio interview or commercial radio? All I know is local radio, so I don't know. I expect we could find out in due course. They probably explain more at the event, and maybe more will be revealed in due course. Darren Bradley says there was a delightful piece of convention footage of Pat mingling with fans, playing his recorder only hours before he went to bed. Sadly, the YouTube video is no longer available. Yeah, I saw that as well, Darren. So gems from the archives keep turning up from wherever and however. And yeah, I like the idea. I like the sentiment that these things aren't to be hoarded away and kept from the fan base, from the broader fan base, at a time when the classic series is more alive than ever, and Patrick Troughton is a far, far from forgotten Doctor. Let us know what you think. Of course, did you get the goosebumps hearing Patrick Troughton's voice again there in that brand new snippet of the recovered interview that's just turned up? Thank you again to Richard Latto and everybody at the Doctor Who Day at the Concord for sharing that with us. More audio gold. We can't promise to give you goosebumps, but we do our best at the Type 40 podcast. Available across all major podcatchers with reviews, previews, interviews, geek outs, and deep dives. Fresh block of episodes on the way, on the starting block, everybody. So stay tuned for all of that. But this is Type 40 Live on Rumble X, YouTube, and on Facebook too. We've covered so much ground already. Where on earth could we be going next? You'll find out in a moment, but I think you owe yourselves a rest, and we certainly owe you one. This is the best time to, okay, you're not going to get 40 winks as such, but you might get 2 or 3 during the Type 40 Live Doctor Who ad break. This is where golden faces and golden voices all get together in telly times past to flog us all manner of everyday old crap from way back in the pre-Amazon day. So check out the Type 40 Live Doctor Who ad break. We'll be back in a couple of minutes when it will commence. We'll recommence.
Families are supposed to be alike. Not mine. George is always joking. Where'd she get that red hair?
Come on, we'll make a kick off.
We don't agree on anything. Good job there's 2 sorts of Rosine. George is dedicated to medicated. And Miss, who has to wash her hair every day, likes the fresh smell of Rosine herbal. So we have one thing in common, hair that's really clean, thanks to medicated Rosine.
Build the Cyberman conversion chamber and construct your Cyberman army. Restrain the space captain.
Upgrading is compulsory. Start the conversion. Upgrading is complete.
Join the Dalek Empire. Build the Dalek Factory and create a new race of the supreme beings. Use the machine arms to reject the inferior Daleks. Rotate the conveyor belt to assemble your new Dalek army. Cyberman conversion chamber and Dalek Factory.
Mrs. Turner, identify these pictures.
Thick and meaty in a rich sauce. Brains faggots. Oh, they're double faggot burgers. Rice with pineapple cubes. Sweet and sour faggots.
Fine. What other good food costs so little and lets you do so much? And here's your prize.
Use your brains. Save money.
Welcome back to your Type 40 Live on Rumble X, YouTube, and on Facebook. Still mopping up after the 2025 season 2 here together. And yeah, whilst things are on pause and people are trying to get away, the livered ones at any rate, yeah, it turns out even they're trying to get away, come to think of it. So it's catching. They're all running for the hills. They're all running for the hills. Happily, we're all here, huddled round, ready to give you more of our opinions on all things Who from across the fabled Whoniverse. Thank you for the comments so far. Yeah, whoa, we've got everybody back. Yes, we have. So this is David Milling. That's Luke Waters. This is Charlotte Shields. Can't remember, no idea who I am. But yeah, thank you everybody for the comments so far. So the conversation in the Doctor Who fandom has turned very much to why haven't we got any answers to some really quite basic questions. But the other fascination that Doctor Who fandom has as a whole is on statistics, metrics, those ratings. David, it's bobbed up again, hasn't it? The unflushable topic of Doctor Who fandom. And with the season having just wrapped, it's understandable that you want to look back, you want to reflect on what went right, what went wrong. Quite a lot went wrong as it happens.
Indeed.
This is the kind in this instance, it's not that I don't think it's fair to kick a dog when it's down, but I take no joy in prolonging the agony. I mean, I said several months ago that the writing was sort of on the wall in this respect, partly due to the Christmas special. Even though the Christmas special did quite well ratings-wise, nobody really talked about it in a positive and favourable way. And so when a new series appeared on the horizon and the publicity was nicely enough made, nice posters and fancy adverts, trailers, how come nobody really knew that it was back? I don't know. I just got the impression that the writing was well on the wall, and that although it was quite natural that we were going to be looking at statistics at those ratings, because we just can't stop ourselves, can we, from seeing the ugly truth. They weren't going to actually change Doctor Who's fate for better or for worse, really. Barb are still not publishing AAI figures, those audience appreciation index numbers, which I feel are really quite an integral part of the reception to any show in the current TV landscape. They tell us so much. Why they're holding onto them and not publishing them, heaven only knows, because when they did publish season ones, they weren't actually that bad. What do they think we're going to do with this information? I have no idea. But of course, we're not only at the other end of a season, we're at the other end of the publicity for the full season as well. Looking back at these graphics from Easter time, promising that season for the 12th of April, I wouldn't say that it would have been silly to have expected a big turnaround in Doctor Who ratings, I think, Luke. But obviously, we're just a couple of months on, and things look so much bleaker now, don't they?
Well, we know why they won't give out the AAI figures, because David Millins will get his hands on them. That is why. It's a conspiracy. Bob are afraid of David. That was very good timing.
Just perform a minor correction, if that's all right, please?
Okay, of course.
Barb don't collate audience appreciation.
They publish them,
figures. They publish them when the BBC gives them to them. So,
I see. Was that where it was falling down?
Yeah, the reason why last year's figures were so delayed is because the BBC changed the metrics of how they measured the AAI. And normally they're given across in goodwill. They don't have to provide them. And I believe a score anything over 80, I think over 80 something is good. It might be 80 or 85.
Yeah, it is 80.
It's generally good. Generally said, generally said as really good. It could be that they've changed the way that they've been measuring them again. I don't know, but the thing is about last season's AI, as I like to call it, appreciation index, is that it was some of the lowest figures that Russell had ever presided over, and were very much in the ballpark of Jodie's time as Doctor, which I think was a big kick in the teeth.
See, what I don't understand, David, is why they were happy to publish Jodie's at the time, and they talked those up as being perfectly okay.
I think, look, there's two possible reasons. They didn't have them at the time, or that they didn't want to give people or the media even more reason to kick the show. Because could you imagine the along with the ratings and not a very good AAI number, that the pasting that the show would have got, there could, they could turn out to be really good. But if they're really good, it's almost like what Disney do. If something's doing really well, they don't half talk about it. It's everywhere. It's blasted like a big trumpet all over the internet, all over them press releases. Look how wonderful we're doing. And when you don't hear anything, you're forced to speculate that actually they might not be all that good. We don't know. We haven't seen them. And, I'm sure they will be released eventually, once they've gone through their verification checks and adjustments for the weather and Britain's Got Talent.
Once they've coated them in bullshit.
Absolutely, and I'm sure we'll see them on Reddit when they appear. But I think I am a little. I don't like to say I feel a little bit cynical as to why they haven't been released. They may be perfectly fine, but
they still publish them for Death in Paradise, as far as I know.
Yeah,
That's so why not this?
Good.
That's because it's got a success story around it, because that gets very good viewing figures for the slot it's in.
It does. And there's all this talk about, oh, people don't watch TV anymore, they don't watch this anymore, but they're all watching on the iPlayer. But for Doctor Who, they're not. It got some of the lowest iPlayer viewings that in modern history, since the iPlayer actually started counting towards a lot of views. You know, so it's when people watch live TV or TV by appointment, and the figures are good, they're all trumpeted about. But when they're not good, people don't watch TV like that anymore. Is the sort of narrative that puts out that's a bit like a football manager who, you know, says his team's wonderful when they win and also wonderful when they lose 20 games on the trot. You know, the narrative becomes pointless because you can see the hypocrisy in the statements.
I mean, you know me. You know, I try to blame Jodie Whittaker for everything wherever and however possible. But in this instance, Russell and everybody involved in the most recent incarnation of the show had every possibility, all the resources, and a reasonable amount of goodwill from the general audience. You know, they turned up in enough numbers to see those 60th anniversary specials and shoot his original Christmas special.
Yeah.
And so, in all fairness, whilst the rot absolutely started with Chibnall and Whittaker, there was every opportunity for them to turn it around. And all we got was, just sobbing, ultimately empty promises and disappointment. And we were all sort of left looking at one another, simply sort of exclaiming, is this really it? Is that honestly the best that they can do? But then again, the fandoms are notoriously difficult to please, aren't they, Luke? We are very particular. So you think, okay, well, maybe it's not. Maybe it might not work for the majority of the fan base, but if the general public like it, if they're responding to it, if they're turning up to see it, or in 2025 adding it to some sort of playlist to catch up on Tuesday or Wednesday, whenever they've got the time, then that's different. But that's simply not happened with this season either, has it? It's all last season, to be fair. They're just not turning up for it, and it does seem to simply indicate that the Bad Wolf BBC Studios, all the partners, just got it really, really wrong.
Yeah, unfortunately, and I'm in the minority that I actually enjoyed this season, and I liked the finale, and you know this, and people are going to, but yeah, I can agree. There's a massive. Hey, I love Jodie Whittaker now, so hey, don't knock it. Jeez,
I forgot you had a turnaround on Miss Whittaker.
It's absolutely mad. I'm currently going through flux, and I'm having the best time. But yeah, no, there is a massive disconnect between the current iteration of the series and the audience and the fan base. And I know there was a big push originally when Shooty came out, and Church and Ruby Road went fine, and I think Space Babies, sorry Dan, Space Babies alienated a lot of people, and I think that series just, I think maybe if the finale stuck the landing a bit better, the original one, but I know there's
everyone always blames Space Babies, but I think that, and it's not that, in all fairness, even though I enjoyed it, I'm not holding it up as some sort of standard as the mold to take the series forward. But I think it's easy to forget that was shown in a double bill with A Devil's Cord. And when I spoke to people who'd made the time to watch it from the general audience, they weren't slagging off Space Babies, the people in post office queues or like my brother's mates, that kind of. They were slagging off the song and dance number. That was the thing that, you know, so
Yeah,
I think results are going to vary on which episode was the one that kind of
but
made people not set it to series link, whatever the terminology you want to use.
Yeah, I know there's a crew member that's now not on Reddit, on TikTok, that worked on the show and is talking quite very openly about her experiences on the show and how it differs and what
During
she
this
thought of
era
it.
or previous eras?
No, this era, yeah.
Okay.
This era, yeah, she's very openly talking about it and what she liked and did not like, and which is great. It's very fascinating. I'll see if I can find it and I'll send it over to you to have a look. But yeah, how she talks about the original finales and how much different they changed. And I know Russell talked about how the original finale, was Legend of Ruby Sunday, was supposed to be more of a heist movie, and what's her name, Susan, was going to be going into another room into the ether to talk to Sutek, and how things had to change because of VFX money and all that stuff. So so I'll have to send you it, and just I think she talks about it quite openly and quite honestly, which is very nice and refreshing to hear, because
people are moving on, aren't they? I mean, I spoke to my, I've got a contact, Type 40's got a contact working on, I think I could say this, working on Casualty. And it was explained to me a couple of weeks ago that not just since Doctor Who wrapped, because they stopped filming season 2 a long time ago, the best part of a year ago, but over recent months when it became very obvious that they wouldn't be coming back as planned, because originally they had planned on making season 3 this year. When it became obvious that wasn't going to happen, over at Casualty, they've been inundated with CVs of people from Bad Wolf, specifically the crew, the former crew of Doctor who worked on this production, season 1 and 2, that pretty much long block there. So there's an exodus of people leaving it and trying to get on in Casualty, because obviously that's made in Cardiff as well.
Yeah, it's just around the corner. It's literally around the corner. And I know they wrapped in May 2024, and then obviously they did the pickups. They did the pickups very recently. But yeah, Charlotte, I will be quiet now.
I'm sorry. I think this era never fully recovered because people didn't take to Shooty's Doctor. I've said this before, and the more I think we've seen it play out, the episodes and the viewing figures, I think the fans and the general public both are sort of very forgiving of this show. And we had this with Capaldi in some of his parts of his series, that you would have not the best scripts at times. You'd have sort of shaky ideas. If it might even be a good script, but some of the ideas were not quite there. Yeah. But people adored him in the part. People were fully on board with his Doctor. And he had a bit of a rough start as well. Like, I was one of those, I've said this, first series of Capaldi, I was a bit like, what are you doing? Like, this, what are you doing to the character? Yeah. And then I sort of realised what it was. But he was beloved, and people were watching purely to see his Doctor. And I think Shooty and Whittaker, in different ways, have shown when your lead is failing, when you're writing them in a certain way, which is very much pushing the audience away. And I feel like with Shooty's Doctor, it was a combination of Russell not having a clue what he was doing with the character now.
Totally.
He very clearly had a vision back in 2005. He had Time War as the backstory. He had the Doctor wanting to sort of reconnect with humanity a bit and reconnect with the adventures. And that was such a good hook for people. And you had actors like Chris and Tennant who could really use that material and add to it and mould it into something incredible. And then you had Shooty's Doctor, which is the morals all over the place. He's written like an absolute coward in bits. He's crying all the time. He's not saving the day. He's relying on other people to save the day. And then with series 2, this really horrible streak that kept appearing in him of the laughing at death, torturing people. The more you go through, the more you sort of go through the writing points for his Doctor, you go, what were you thinking putting this on screen? Nobody's going to connect with this character.
The character's impenetrable.
Yeah, that's
either in any as a character on the page, just looking at him, partly because the way he dresses, and partly because Shooty plays him so differently. Shooty just never seemed remotely like he was wearing the character snugly. He had ease with the part. And I'll even go so far as to say, in hindsight, Charlotte, there were times where his mind, it just seemed like his mind was on other things. And I think the audiences can pick up on things like that too.
Well, yeah, so you had the writing issues, and then you had an actor that, we sort of said this, and more you sort of saw him in that second series. In some moments, it was like, oh, is he jiving now? And then in the next scene, you were getting, no, he's completely not still understanding how to play this character on screen. And it's because I don't think he sort of dug in enough into this character. And I do think, once again, if your writing's all over the place, that's hard to do. I'm not denying that. But it's like, an actor needs to know the character in their head before they can say the lines.
Absolutely.
I always say, Charlotte, about the very end of the classic era, because I watched that as a dedicated fan by that point, watching the McCoy era play out, the reception to him, seasons 24, 25 and 26, and the aftermath thereof. On screen, you'd got somebody who was doing the opposite of the things that Ncuti's done over his time. Sylvester was, and people got really upset when I said this before, Sylvester wasn't miscast, don't get me wrong, but he was thrown in right at the deep end with material that was written for somebody else. He didn't know what he was doing. He was given 3 weeks before he had to start. That guy was really up against it, and he managed to draw an immense resources within his own personality, a strong work ethic, and just faith in the material that he was being given to jump straight in, to stick with it, and gradually kind of evolve the character. The exact opposite of that which Ncuti has done. Now, despite Sylvester's progress on screen, which anyone can see when they watch back those episodes, it didn't have any. It didn't cause people to rush to the show. No. It didn't. It didn't yield the kind of response it deserved. A series getting so much incrementally better, almost story by story.
And it's the opposite.
But it did mean that as a fan base, even though we'd lost our show, it did mean, Charlotte, we could look back with a bit of pride, thinking, okay, so by the time it limped off screen, nobody really cared. But in its 26th year, it screens something as classy as The Curse of Fenric and Ghostlight. Can we really say that about this?
And Survival.
I actually like all 4 stories, but I would specifically, if we're looking at like the whole, like what the public would say is makes highlights. Good Doctor Who. Think, oh, that looks like Doctor Who. They would point to Curse and Ghostlight is kind of what I'm saying. Whereas with this, you got The Well, and that was pretty much it. And last year too, as I say, I've enjoyed some of them. I've been completely honest about that, but I knew it wasn't hitting the mark. I didn't think it was good enough. No, of course it wasn't good enough.
The problem was, it was like when they started to run with something that you're like, oh, this could work, like the Belinda thing. I think more and more people have sort of reflected on the character writing of Belinda in these last couple of weeks. And how can you ruin a character so quickly? I'm sorry, she got absolutely ruined as a character, because she started off this. I like the feistiness in her. I like the fact that she was talking back a bit with the Doctor, that she was questioning him a bit, she was challenging him. Because I got fed up of all the sort of Doctor, what you say is right all the time sort of writing we had for companions. So I thought, do you know what? Here's a girl who's actually saying, no, what you're doing. Like, I liked that about her. And then by the second episode, she's best mates, and all that fire and questioning is gone. Even when you had that torture scene, which was the best opportunity to sort of bring that back with the character, and she very limply told him off. And then
told him he was wonderful.
He was wonderful. And like halfway through, we've now even had guest writers admit they had no idea who Belinda was as a character.
Yeah.
That's why in some of those middle episodes, we said at the time, Belinda's disappeared. Where's Belinda gone?
Such a shame, because she was so great. If it wasn't for Verida Sethu, Bonnie Langford, Millie Gibson, really the thing would have been a complete. I did like him. There were the odd actor here or there, actor and actress who turned up I thought Lenny Rush was great fun as whoever that was, Morris, whatever his name was. He played. So there were highlights, there were little bits and pieces, but not enough. I mean, you think, what will the era be remembered for? I don't think it'll be remembered at all. It's been simply a blip, the exact opposite of what was needed. And we've had the bulk of the ratings for a while now, David. The first.
Yeah.
Obviously, as the series has gone on, so we're going to take a look at the figures now. But I think the last time we looked, we were about halfway through the run. So there's those overnight figures, literally overnight, and the consolidated figures that come in at the 7-day mark. There were the odd surprise here and there, for better or for worse, but nothing. It was all quite deflating. I think as fans, we could find it within ourselves, Luke, to think, okay, well, it's not a high number, but it's a number. We can at least see whether things are going up or going down. So I think we made good sport of it nonetheless. But looking at these figures now, and I hadn't looked at them for a while because I have to be honest, I just lost interest in the ratings. It seemed Doctor Who didn't even seem like it stood a remote chance of anything resembling a triumph, so I did kind of detach a lot from this for the very first time. But when you look back at the figures now, and you haven't seen them for a little while, I think, my God, that seems low. I mean, are there any patterns here, David, in the first 6 weeks, before they got to that 2-part season finale, which is meant to rally the nation? Are there any patterns here that you noticed that seem notable? Because to me, this simply looks like a show that interest and audience simply bottomed out and doesn't stand a chance. This is as close to a flat line as you can get watching this.
Yeah. I mean, this is the +7 TV only consolidated figures without the 4 screens. And what you will notice is that your consolidation figures are what Private Eye would call piss poor, in the fact that they start off quite respectable, and then they go down. And one of the worst ones is that the last one, whereby you've got just over a 0.7 increase in Interstellar Song Contest, which is not very 0.7 million, 0.76 million, I believe, if my maths are right, which I hope they are. Increase in that, which, look, we were used to seeing Doctor Who on consolidated from the Matt Smith and particularly the Peter Capaldi days of getting 2 million on consolidation. And so the pattern for me is that people just go, no, thank you very much. The outlier, of course, is the Interstellar Song Contest, because that was sandwiched between the FA Cup final and Eurovision. And
it's clear that the uptick for that is solely because of, like, the Christmas Day figures. It's simply because of what's on around it.
Yeah, and what you can see is 1, 2, 3, 4 overnights under 2 million, and I think Wish World was under 2 million as well. So when 5 of your 8 episodes are under the 2 million mark, you've got to start asking questions, because don't forget, this series debuted a whole month sooner than it did last year. So the weather in May last year was as lovely as the weather we had in April, so you can rule that out. Plus, also, you've got Easter holidays as well, so a lot of people are off work for long weekends and things like that, so they're more likely to probably, oh God, what's on telly?
See,
well, there's that.
What I noticed, David, as somebody who is, I think the ratings stuff, generally speaking, has always been a harmless pursuit, part of the fun. And I was always a little frustrated when an episode that I liked didn't get as many people watching as I would have wished for or thought it would. But at the end of the day, that was down to, a lot of the time, to my personal tastes. When I think back to the figures of everybody up to Jodie Whittaker, including Peter Capaldi, I know that things started to drop a little there. Yeah. I remember that when there was variation between weeks, it would be sort of 500,000 here or there. You know, there were good chunks of people. Whereas here, it's like tiny amounts. And this is what I mean by the show flatline. And it's like every now and again, it's like beep, beep. Oh, it's still alive. Somebody's still watching. Beep, beep. And that's all you really get. That's the only sign of life. It's not a beat. It's not a pulse. It's nothing that speaks of a show that has any relevance or any actual audience appetite.
And what you're looking at is that it is a flat line. And if you look at the audience shares, the only episode that got over the lowest of last season's Rogue, everything else was below it, which was 19.8% Rogue. The only episode that was above it was in the early 20s, which was the Interstellar Song Contest. Well, of course it would be, because ITV pulled Britain's Got Talent for that Saturday night because of the FA Cup final.
Looking at Wishworld, despite the fact that this was somewhat trailered and a little anticipated, maybe, I don't know, it still wasn't any change at all. Really, the figures are pretty much exactly the same. In fact, the consolidated figure is very poor.
It's 0.69 million, and you know the issue is, and it backed up your flatlining thing. When your audience share is lower than 1 in 5, which before this series it had only ever gone below that figure once, which was Rogue. Okay. The rest of Space Babies was in the 30-odd%, I believe. Only the early 30s. But you know, your audience is voting with its feet and saying, no, thank you, no, thank you. The audience share figure, the Doctor Who's audience share figures were thumped by the evening news every week. You know, the evening news and weather got vastly more overnight ratings than Doctor Who. And that's depressing. People obviously tuning in to see depressing stuff. And not much, you know, and some could say that Doctor Who was depressing as well. But
I mean, there was Wishworld ended on I believe, a great cliffhanger, Luke.
Yeah,
I thought that one that I would have thought, although it wasn't a great sort of shocker, it was fairly standard sort of adventure fiction. Hero is falling to his doom kind of thing. It was really well made, and I genuinely wanted to know what was going to happen next. You would imagine that there'd have been some word of mouth after that, perhaps, but clearly that didn't happen for the show either, did it? And the actual finale, episode 8, slightly more than I've watched the previous one. But then again, I'd say that could have been, particularly with the 7-day figure, people going back and maybe watching it on catch up based on the slight car crash kind of appeal of the Billie Piper appearance right at the very, very end. Could have been what sort of lifted it up a little. Did that, because people said to me, "Oh, I hear that Billie Piper is the new Doctor Who. Have they really done that?" Oh, I'll go back and see. So I know that people hit that clip up on YouTube. So maybe some people hit it up on iPlayer as well. I mean, how do you feel, Luke, when you look at these figures? I mean, do you think it's inconsequential, or is this just an indicator of a tired brand at the end of the day that just needs time away?
Yeah, the marketing I thought has been pretty poor, to be honest. It's like when Matt Smith was first announced, and you had the All of Time and Space, Where Do You Want to Start trailer in the cinema before, like Alice in Wonderland, and you had that really cool one with
and we mentioned this a little while ago when you brought it up, Charlotte, as well. Because you changed my mind about this. Initially, I thought that, Luke, that the marketing departments had let them all down. Now, in light of something that Charlotte brought to my attention a few weeks ago about things that Russell kept saying about making things that are social media kind of friendly, that can be shared, that are mimetic. Now I'm actually starting to think that they might have done it on purpose, thinking that a different kind of strategy, a kind of lower level, net social media based series of
Yeah.
marketing blips was a deliberate choice by them, which obviously hasn't paid off either. That's the conclusion that I'm starting to come to.
Yeah, potentially, because I know you got like the Doctor Who Instagram channels, and they've got like the Subwave network on there, and they just post constant stuff. I think Dugadoo is still on 24/7 on YouTube currently. So yeah,
Good.
potentially. Yeah, I love Dugadoo.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Yeah, I did read that on Reddit that it was very good. That you liked it. But yeah, no, I think maybe it was. I don't know. Yeah, it's such a weird one. But you look at like his first season come around, every like billboard in Manchester when you're driving up and down every road, it was Shooty and Millie were plastered on every LED billboard, every
Were
billboard.
they?
Yeah, they were. Yeah, they were. Literally every day I was walking to work, I'd always see a Doctor Who billboard somewhere. But yeah, looking back at like, do you remember like the specially shot trailers, all the ones we had for season 4? You had like Donna talking about the fireplace, and you see the Daleks and Tarans, all that. The split screen trailer for season 3 with Martha and David Tennant for Regiment, like that was so cool. We don't get like we just don't get it anymore, and it's like, cool, here's an Instagram post. I guess that's potentially why as well, like we talked about casting as well, and you got to be cast to have X amount of followers as well, because if they share it, then that'll go instantly to 2 million people, and having one person share it on an Instagram channel is going to save a lot more money than posting it on a billboard that might only see 100,000 people. Yeah, I don't know. I thought the marketing was, I don't know. It used to be like this. Do you remember David Tennant and turned on the lights in Blackpool? Like,
Yeah.
that was the coolest thing ever. And I don't know.
People still need people to talk about it rather than see it on a screen, because seeing it on a screen is like last night's chip wrappers, or last night's newspaper being chip wrappers. And just very, very briefly, I saw an article today that Faye Tozer, the lovely Faye from Steps, was saying that many, many great actors and musical, including musical theatre stars, actors are losing out on roles because they don't have a decent they don't have any Instagram followers or any social media followers, and so there is people are being cast because they have a lot of characters when they are totally unsuitable when they are totally unsuitable for the role. And it seems that the BBC have gone with this, oh well, let's put it out there, and people have just gone scroll past
I am starting to think that this entire thing has been misjudged, mistimed. That they're just, their heads are just not in it. You know, we've seen through it. Charlotte, you connected those dots now several weeks ago. The general public saw through it. Nobody bought this. Dead ringers, they definitely saw through. You know, we talked about that last week, David, and I would imagine that a lot of us have probably played that clip dozens of times. Just because that's what we've all been thinking. So the dots, it's all forming a picture of just yet more things that they've gotten wrong.
Well, I didn't laugh at that clip. Oh, sorry, Charlotte. I didn't laugh at that clip. I just silently nodded along with it. Sorry, Charlotte.
But here's the thing. Like, I could see it in the writing. That's what started me to think about this social media, sort of your Instagram posts. The way the story beats are getting presented and written, it felt like to me this is being written for Twitter. This has been written so you can get your little clip and you can put it on your socials, do all your hashtags, and get all the online engagement that you can. But what Russell and people don't seem to understand in TV right now is that doesn't drive real audiences. That drives people talking about it online, but they're not going to actually go and watch your programme. And for me, the sort of the test for this, in my head, was the whole Rani situation. Because after the Interstellar Song Contest, I actually saw probably the most social stuff I'd seen for the whole series because of that Rani reveal. And it was a mixture of old fans who knew who she was. It was a mixture of new fans not having a clue who she was. And it was just sort of this sort of shock factor that it actually got a bit of momentum. Like the day afterwards, usually when I was looking Doctor Who, nobody was talking about it on like the Sunday after it had been broadcast on the Saturday. On the Sunday after that episode, people were talking about Doctor Who. So I was like, right. So they've captured a moment, and this is what I mean by your clippable moments. They could have that one clip of us splitting in half, having the lines, put it on your socials, blast it, get people talking. But if your people don't come next week, it's a snap moment. It's a snap. People
It's
talk about it and
academic,
then they move on. Whereas if you've got good quality stuff, which actually gets word of mouth going, actually has good writing. Like, for example, Death Valley on the BBC recently.
Yeah, I love that.
That got so much like good word of mouth and positive coverage and people genuinely saying how much they liked it. That, like, for me, I've been watching it on iPlayer recently purely because of how much I heard how good it was. And Doctor Who, that's what it needed. Actually solid writing and acting and everything else, not just, here you go Instagram, here's your 5-second clip. And Russell seems to just been completely captured by this social media thing. And it's like, no, Russell, you need to have your show talked about naturally in a good way. And then, because then people will come back every week. Whereas if you have your one moment of shock, and that's why also I think, honestly, if you look at that finale figure for Reality War, that's poor considering they had the Billie Piper thing at the end. Because back in the day, if it was a good episode and it had like that Billie moment, that would have easily hit your mid 4 million and you consolidated without any issue. Now they can't, they just about got over 3 million if you think about it, on your 7-day after having a moment which everybody sort of looked at and laughed at. But at least people were looking at it. That's my point.
It makes for painful reading, whichever generation of fan you come in on. This is our show. We don't want to see it limp off screen in this way.
And your consolidated +7 is only 10,000 more than the Lux for that moment at the end. And I know you don't like the 5-minute figures, but I did source the 5-minute figures for. I just want to caveat the fact that we don't like the 5-minute figures, because I think that yes, they do provide the average, which is your overnight figure.
I think they're largely for our purposes neither here nor there. I think for the advertising market, then there's relevance to it, but for us as fans, it's negligible, and how far we need to look at other shows in the same light to single out. My view is editorially is that to look at Doctor Who's to that microscopic degree, you'd have to go and look like for like at other drama shows.
I do agree, but my point is slightly tinged to the end. Okay, yes. Because the actual figure for the last 5 minutes for the regeneration, where you would imagine that they would be very high, the last 5 minutes are actually 1.5 million viewers. Okay, so that's what I think was particularly for me from a sort of analysis point of view was particularly very interesting to see that normally you would expect that peak building up to, oh my God, the Doctor's going to regenerate. He's going, and you would expect to see that line spike or those figures spike. Well, they did spike, but in the other way.
The problem was, David, they didn't advertise this as a regeneration.
Yeah.
Like,
absolutely.
The fans knew because we'd sort of read all the signs.
Some fans knew.
Majority of the fans, let me correct myself, knew, but the general public didn't. And I thought that going in, I was like, BBC, maybe originally you planned to do a surprise, like I sort of guessed last year.
Yeah.
But I was like, actually, maybe with these figures, you might break what your original plan was and get it out there that he's regeneration, guys, come and see, and they didn't.
Yeah. How much, if any of this,
stupid move.
How much, if any of this, can we level at this grinning gonad here for saying something so fucking stupid as don't watch, turn off the TV, go and touch grass, please, for God's sake? Because although we can accept that perhaps it wasn't meant exactly in the way that it fell upon all ears, it was still an incredibly stupid thing to say. And this was heard loud and clear. He said this, God, I think it was the best part of a year ago, from a place of enormous ignorance and sheer stupidity. Do you think this did travel outside of fandom, Charlotte?
Sure.
Well, yeah, because I think the problem was we'd just come off a Doctor, which in her initial interviews was very sort of, she talked about the old show being about the white male gaze. She talked about how it was this, it was that.
She came across as your standard insufferable feminist. He came across initially as quite likable, if a bit of a prick. But of course, the more he revealed himself to be who he actually was, this kind of self-absorbed prima donna. I won't describe him as talentless, but he's a very particular kind of talent. He just became more and more intensely dislikable.
Well, but that's my point. We were just coming off a Doctor which had done a PR disaster amount of interviews before we saw her on screen. So the fans had already had that experience with a Doctor sort of coming in, not being welcoming, sort of putting up a fence before we'd even seen them almost. Sort of almost challenging us to like her before she'd done anything. And so what Shooty needed to do was what he said initially. He did do this. He actually did come in very respectfully, talking about the legacy, talking about how much of sort of it's a big thing and it's an honour.
Yeah, I mean, he said the odd silly thing, Charlotte, but generally for the most part, he came across as quite hungry for the part, a fun person, brimming with personality and enthusiasm, to the point where I thought, well, I got no reason not to think this guy, you know.
So but he came in like that, and you, I can feel, and I remember at the time, fandom almost had a sigh of relief to be like, oh, he's actually getting it, he's actually understanding it, he's going to actually be like a respectful, like caring person in the role again. And then he came out with that in one of his big interviews beforehand. And it was just like, I think it made us all sort of very quickly go to, oh, he's another one. Oh, we're here again. That's my point. We'd already had that experience. So to see similar-ish stuff coming out of another lead again, maybe, like you said, it didn't have the exact same intention. But I'm sorry, for a lot of fans that came across as, once again, like me or else. If you don't like me, it's your fault. That's what it came across as. And that's the last thing that the current lead at that time needed to be saying.
Yeah. You don't hear Adrian Dunbar or Vicky McClure saying that about Line of Duty. You don't hear David Mitchell say that about Ludwig. You don't say Dan Gillette say that about Death in Paradise. You don't hear, Timothy Spall saying that about Death Valley. You don't hear Tom Cruise saying that about Mission Impossible, even when some people are really panic. You've got to promote the show or the project you're involved with to the best of your abilities, and just don't be drawn on stuff like that, because it ends up as massive clickbait. And in this respect, it has not aged well. There's that infamous online article, this movie isn't for white straight men. 2 weeks later, why aren't white straight men watching this movie? What Charlotte says is absolutely 100% true, and it just smacks of that moment when your lead actor says, well, this, that, and the other. Then a guest star says it in Jinx Monsoon, saying, oh, well, for everyone that leaves, we're going to get 4 to 5
and then
people.
Your showrunner adds on to that.
Oh, yes. And then your co-star in Millie Gibson says, if you just shut up and watch it, or words to the effect. People just go, well, do you know what? Fuck you. Sorry for my language, but
no, it is that simple. That's how people react to it.
It's like how next week Jurassic World comes out, and the premiere's been happening this week for it, and like all of the stars on that, and Gareth Edwards, who's the director. Do you know what they're talking about in all their interviews? How much they love the original Jurassic Park, how important it was to them as a movie, as a that Gareth has
So
talked about.
connection,
how much it connected to him
legacy.
as a director, yeah, and how
Yeah.
all the sort of how clever it was and how it did that. And then when they're asked about their stuff, they're just talking about their characters and how they're excited and how they want to bring this to it and how they understand that the characters before them have really big shoes to fill. All these sort of points have been everywhere in the premiere for that movie.
And how humble they are to be
Yeah.
involved.
And everybody who's watched those actors and Gareth, I've seen who's reacted to those premieres have gone, do you know what? I want to really see this movie now. Like, people who are maybe on the fence a bit about it have gone, do you know what? Because of how lovely they've all been, I'm actually going to go and watch it.
I'm down for this. Yeah, there's something properly in the truth. This is a word that you can't use now without hearing some nutcase sort of shouting it at you. Properly inclusive, literally of everybody. We're having a party in every cinema in the world. We want you to come. We promise we're going to do our bloody best to give you a good time and value for your money. And that's something that the BBC have never really done that, or they certainly haven't for the last 20 or 30 years, because they know they've already got your license fee money. That's always my line on this. If they didn't have that to fall back on, they'd be singing a different tune, believe me. But it's cost them dearly. Doctor Who is one of their biggest brands. It's cost Doctor Who and the Doctor Who community, the fan base, the integrity of this brand, quite a lot. No, it's probably not a fatal blow, but these are wounds that are going to cut deep for a really, really long time. And that's not necessarily just the ratings, it's the indignity of it all as well. And for this to happen on the 20th anniversary too of New Who, we've had that delightful documentary. I just think, what a shame, what an embarrassment, what a massive fuck up at the hands of Russell T Davies, Bad Wolf, BBC Studios, because they're far from blameless in it all as well, and Disney Plus too. Everybody has to share their stake of the blame for this, basically. I'm not a completist anymore, thank heaven. It'll be a while before I pick this up on physical media or watch it in any way, shape, or form. I think, even though I enjoyed certain parts of it, and even though I still think Veronica Sather is gorgeous, but season 2 is available for pre-order. So it's coming out on DVD and Blu-ray on the 18th of August 2025. We talked about this last week. So you've got 3 choices here. You've got your DVD, you've got your Blu-ray, and you've got your Steelbook. So the Steelbook is £59.99. The Blu-ray option, $49.99, or you can go for the standard DVD there at $39.99 for the 9 episodes and a splattering of extras there. So let us know how you get on. If you can't resist pulling the trigger, we do understand. No judgment here at Type 40 Live. No.
I could take Luke to dinner for less than that.
Oh mate, I'm a cheap date. All you can eat, all you can eat buffet in Manchester. Tops £20. I'm there all day. Trust me.
I'll fight you to the first in the queue.
So good, honestly. You can get steak with it as well. You can get and calamari. Pete, I'm advertising Tops now, so sorry. I'll
Speaking of steak.
Oh my God. Stephen and Vicky, Peter Purves and Maureen O'Brien. Yeah, no. At one point I thought about putting him in this episode.
Did you?
At one point there was a giant cow in UNHQ. One of the creatures like the Vlinks.
Oh yeah.
It was going to be a big cow sitting at a desk. Right. And then it turned out to be Stephen in disguise. And the things that go through my head, I know. The things you don't ever see that like,
wow.
He was going to go wham like that. I'm here to fight the toy maker. And it would have been much better.
I love Bill's reaction there. He was just like, I'm not saying anything. And Ten would be like, yeah, wow.
Yeah, we've talked about that before, Charlotte, but that was the first time I've ever seen it and heard it. It's just as ridiculous as it appeared, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, it sort of broke. I remember I just burst out laughing for about 5 minutes and couldn't speak when we spoke about it last time.
Magic mushrooms are bad, okay? They're really bad.
I don't know. Funny enough, almost missed me and Mr. Carley, Mr. War Doctor, were out at the Toby Hadouken's It was a friend of the show. Yeah, hey Doug. We were at his XS Malarkey in 532 in Manchester on Tuesday, and I think we were going to pop up for a pint on Wednesday, and then we didn't. And then Russell T Davis was posting from inside 532 with Phil Collinson on Wednesday, so we would have bumped into him at the same time. So that would have been a mad one.
Interesting.
But, yeah,
it would have been very interesting. Yeah. Thank you again for your company. Yes, we do have a small obsession with Doctor Who. Yeah, bigger on the inside.
Especially after that buffet.
But that is that for now. Just for a little while at least. That was a knockout run of Type 40 Live. We're also hitting pause. Really, here for a little while, months and months, reams of exhaustive, expansive, multi-dimensional talk from across the Whoniverse, and of course, we'll resume, unlike Russell T Davies, before you know it. In the meantime, you're going to want to make sure that you're subscribed and that you hit the cloister bell to get all the notifications. We do have stuff that we've put together ahead of time. That's coming up as well. That is that. Thank you for your company on this edition of the show. It's having an effect. It's having the effect, is it? So we've had some fantastic comments as always. I think that this has been closure. I'd call this closure, David. You know, the ratings themselves, of course, and there's been something of the post-mortem about it. Of course, it's not the last word on any of that. I think that as the months go on, maybe we'll start to hear more. More data points will be revealed. Of course they will. But obviously as time goes on, they become less and less important. The pattern is sort of set. But it needed a proper going over before we could really say, okay, and to turn the page, close the door, whatever you want to say, whatever you want to call it, and simply move on, move back to a happier, to a healthier place. David, you've joined us over the last few months, and your contributions have been very, very valued. Thank you so much. And this evening as well, all your insight into the ratings, into statistics, and all that jazz, basically, and your good humour. So thank you so much.
It's a pleasure. Is this me leaving the stage? I hope not. But
no, it's me being polite.
You're fired. Well, thank you. I hope I did it justice. I mean, I do have my degree certificate somewhere. If people, I think it's propping up something. If people want to see my qualifications, put it this way: rhyming slam. It was a Desmond. So. Former Archbishop in South Africa, a Tutu. There you go. But yes, it was from the University of Portsmouth in 1999. If anybody wishes to check their academic records department, so I am a bona fide Bachelor of Science in Statistics with honours, don't you know? But thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure boring you senseless about figures and facts.
We've had a giggle as well, David. We've had a giggle.
Thank you. Yeah, we have.
It's been an intense few months, hasn't it, Charlotte? This block of episodes, and all these weeks covering those episodes themselves to 3 live streams, most weeks, as well as the pre-launch stuff and the post-match analysis over the last couple of weeks.
I'm sort of surprised you're not fed up of me at this point, because when the series was on, it was me and you, and a few of us were 3 a week. But no, I said this before, whatever happens with the show, I adore being with you guys. Our chat's amazing. It's sort of the most welcoming, lovely thing to see while we're talking and you guys interact with each other. You sort of talk to us, you ask us questions. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
And I feel like I get to spend time with my sort of internet family. That's what I refer to. You guys and the chat. So it's been lovely.
Yeah.
Luke, you also stepped aboard this year. You came on just doing a guest spot, and then we sort of wouldn't let you go, would we? Or you didn't want to go? I can't. But it certainly all worked out for the better. So thank you so much for your company over the last few months talking about all this stuff. I'm excited for what's to come next, not just from us here at Type 40, what we're going to be talking about in the future, but for everything that's going on with you at Cinescope. So do you want to plug exactly what's dropped recently again, mate?
It has been an absolute joy. I will forget each of you almost immediately and get on with my life fairly quick, as I have read that on Reddit. But yes. So yeah, I'm just here just to listen to David. That's my Mondays is David Mondays. But yes, and obviously the Retro Pope and Queen Shah. No, it's been an absolute joy. It's been a really good laugh, and yes, I've been really looking forward to doing the Monday slot. And so Cinescope, we got the feature length version of Hooligans, because it's the show that will never die. We got the feature length version, the Tales of the TARDIS version coming out. It's going to be, I think, it's 66 minutes. There's some new scenes being filmed that have been slotted in there, so there's some new stuff for fans to catch. And we made a new narrative. We got I Made the Time Machine, starring Big Finish's War Doctor Jonathan Carley playing time-traveling, tweed-wearing, bow-tie-clad H.G. Wells. And he also has brainy specs, and a mustache, which is fantastic. Which is in the credits as well. Is the special thanks to John's mustache, because it completely steals the show. And we've got some Lens Life episodes. So because obviously we make a lot of stuff, we do a lot of stuff, we travel around the world. We'd go to the UK and Ireland, and then I go to Brussels and get nearly sick and end up nearly shitting myself watching the finale. In that order, believe it or not. But yeah, so we do a new series called Lens Life. Episode 1's out, and it's a BTS look at us going to the festivals, going behind the scenes of the film challenges we do, and just what it's like being an independent filmmaker in this day and age. From red carpet black tie events to screenings in a pub where a Lord of the Rings fan talks over your entire film. So that is coming out soon. Episode 1 is out now. It's 32 minutes of me talking absolute waffle. But I go to Ledworth and Sweetville, and what else? I go on top of a mountain.
Every cloud has a silver lining.
I'm doing a really bad Scottish accent, but yes, that is it. But no, it's been an absolute joy again. So thanks for having me.
Don't worry too much, everybody. We'll be back before you know it. I promise. Until then, come and say hello, as always, through our social medias, Instagram and X at Type 40 Doctor Who, or join us in the Type 40 Facebook group, join the discussion, share whatever you want to share, whether it's artwork, whether it's theories, fan fiction, your various snaps of your collection, your shelf porn, I must specify, shelf porn. Anything you like there in the Type 40 Facebook group. You can join us through the wonder of SpeakPipe to leave us a message, a prediction, a request, a referral, even there at the SpeakPipe link. That's all there for you to get involved with Type 40. Previous editions of this show, so the standard regular live streams talking about the news and whatever's going on in Doctor Who fandom too. Those are all here on the playlists, ready for you to relive till your little hearts are content, as well as our event shows and our celebrations of stories and key figures from throughout Doctor Who's illustrious, until quite recently, illustrious history. Yeah. As for him, not a knockout at the end, was it really? Not a knockout. We're assured that Doctor Who itself will be continued. With maybe the fan art's coming already for Billie Piper. Whether it does go anywhere or not, obviously we're all ears, just as you are, and you'll get our comments as soon as anything breaks. Of course, you can guarantee that. So make sure you keep your whistles wet and some Jaffa cakes, or the baked snack of your choice. To hand, really. We're not too proud there. Whatever works for you, get at it on us. That's the general gist of it. Okay. Yeah, when we come back, you'll get more of the news, reviews, previews, and discussions, as well as the fan art slot as well. So get your fan art into us, and we'll plaster it up all over those TARDIS walls there when our own 2025 season resumes. So yeah, we will be back before you know it. Make sure you're subbed and notified. Thank you to everybody for the comments there, and all you guys on the panel. Stay tuned. We always have the time if you have the space here at Type 40 Live. Speak soon. Bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye.
Speak
Bye.
soon.
Dabachi. No star.